the case and then the dissent. On T-domestic, I can extend his I needs. He has no offense on this topicality or reasons to reject me, so you're not going to be voting there. But going on to T-reform, I think he's just not meeting his interpretation at all, or his counter-interpretation for that matter. First of all, he reads the counter-interpretation that says reform is somehow like improving or changing the status quo. I don't remember the exact words of it. But the fact is, he's not doing that to the status quo. His plan hasn't come into effect until 2012. That's my violation. Nothing is going on. This 100% mandate isn't in effect until 2012. That means it doesn't matter if he's repealing it now. Like, it hasn't come into effect yet. So he can read any definition he wants about improving the status quo, abolishing bad things in the status quo, or changing to prevent, like, the status quo. It doesn't matter. His plan hasn't come into effect yet. So he's not actually reforming something that's going on right now. He doesn't need his own counter-interpretation. But go down to, like, the standards. He talks about how his counter-interpretation gives more predictability, or, like, equal predictability, because it's also from an internet source. But that doesn't matter. He doesn't analyze the arguments I make that it's not predictable ground. I say it's abusive to me, because I'm not researching cases that don't change the status quo. I'm only researching cases that make a change. He doesn't answer back on predictable ground. Maybe he is from the internet, but that still doesn't mean his definition is defining predictable ground for the debate that I would have prepared for. But also on the ground argument, I think I'm just winning that straight out. His definition, he says he gives fair ground to both sides, but if he doesn't have to change anything, he can just advocate maintaining what's going on right now, maintaining the status quo. Like, almost all negative disads are based on this is going on in the status quo, and that's your uniqueness. And then the link is the plan is going to change something to the status quo, but he's not changing anything status quo. So all my disads don't link properly to his case. On the limits, he says he somehow has better limits, but in his interpretation, he's massively exploding limits for the topic if he doesn't even have to change anything. I think I give him a lot of leeway to not even be dealing with physical infrastructure here, and he can be acting on these like foreign ports, maybe somehow affecting U.S. ports through putting in an X-ray machine or something, but at least I'd like him to do something. He's just not changing anything if he's repealing legislation that hasn't come into effect yet. So down on the voters, he says reasonability. I don't think it's reasonable at all that the affirmative is not changing anything. They're not changing a policy that's in effect yet. This hasn't passed. It hasn't been put into effect. That's not reasonable. You can extend all the voters I read. First of all, I think it's important to extend my voters about education and fairness. Like, at the point that I don't have good arguments to make in the case, and the fact that his case is not actually changing anything, we're losing education. I think the point of debate, the educational value debate, is talking about potential changes that can be made to our world to make it better. But he's not talking about a potential change. He's talking about just keeping it the same and not changing anything. I think there you can vote him down on the form topicality. He's just not meeting my interpretation or his because he's advocating the status quo, which is vastly abusive to the negative. Go to the case. On the case, just go like to his first advantage. First, you can extend my argument that he's not talking about complete trade blocks. He's only talking about trade barriers, and his impact is predicated on 100% trade blocks. I think this argument can extend across the flow. At that point, he's not accessing the impact. But more importantly, like go to my argument on the WTO. He just says Spicer's in 96 and WTO is established in 95. But that wasn't my argument. My argument was the WTO has now become a powerful organization. So the WTO now actually has power. It actually does things. In 96, it didn't have that. It was a new organization in its infancy. I think it's still true that WTO right now exists to regulate trade disputes, and it will regulate this to prevent the nuclear war from breaking out. There's just no impact on stopping this trade war scenario. On the second advantage, like, first of all, you can extend the extreme probability of this Russia scenario. He talks about them attacking Georgia, but that's different from, like, the world wars or big impacts. Like, there's still no time frame for Russia to start launching out attacks on other countries and causing the massive problems he's talking about. At the very least, if he's getting access, maybe they attack some satellite states. There's still very little magnitude of this impact when you're weighing it against the disadvantage, which we'll get to in a minute. But also, you can extend my argument that we're not cooperating on energy with the plan, which is his link to solving for Russia. He doesn't have any analysis as to how we're going to suddenly start these energy cooperations. At the point, he doesn't get to this impact. But furthermore, you can extend my argument that his link card to this does not say our cooperation rebuilds anything at all. It just says we should have free trade, but doesn't say that we'll rebuild our relationship in any way. There's just no way he's getting to solving for this Russia impact. So I think right here, you might as well just vote him down for not solving for any of his advantages. There's no solvency on this case, 100%. He doesn't solve for anything. There is no way he gets to fix his impacts. But going to disadvantage. First, he says turn that 100% would drive people to less secure ports because of the cost. But that's not answering my uniqueness card that says, guess what, the tech for 100% is here now, and it's cheap and cost effective. If the technology is cheap and cost effective and improves efficiency, there would be no reason these boats would be driven to these less secure ports because they don't have enough money to pay for this cheap and cost effective tech that my card talks about. But NFC says, turn this like 100% scanning would call it quality over quantity, but like right now we have no quality or quantity. We're not scanning anything. We're scanning 5%, and there's no analysis that we're even scanning that 5% well, especially when my link card says that the 5% screening we're doing right now is not enough, and terrorists have smuggled themselves in containers. I think we have no quality now and no quantity, so there's no way that maintaining 100% scanning, which my uniqueness card says the tech is available and works, will make this somehow worse. When NFC says that terrorists can bypass the security system, that might be true right now. That's what my link card is saying. They're getting through. We have to improve to 100% so the terrorists can no longer get through our security systems because that's bad. But go down, he said that terrorism would have already occurred. I think we're actually seeing the impacts of having poor security when my link card says that like 25 terrorists smuggled themselves into the country. Who knows what they're plotting right now? We have no idea what they were bringing in their containers. There could be more people coming in we don't know about. I think these impacts are occurring right now. Things are getting through our security system. And then he tells you that terrorism is not a threat and it's not that bad. But if you extend my impact card, it's still true that the terrorist attack could have devastating consequences. A terrorist attack with the WMD, if it occurs, has almost infinite magnitude. It could effectively lead to extinction after my evidence. That means this impact has the most magnitude around. I think you always vote on it first because the risk of extinction is infinite. You have to hedge against it. But, more importantly, since the plan is solving for no impacts, you're weighing nothing against the disadvantage, so any risk of terrorists getting this attack through is enough to be used.
Got 250 on